Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions on World War I trivia. Let's take a look at our Quiz Class awards. And here they are. Let us know how you rank in the comments at the end, along with the answer to the bonus question. And let's begin. Which British general, known for his role in the Mesopotamian campaign, surrendered at Kut in 1916 after a 147-day siege? Charles Townshend, Edmund Allenby, or Douglas Haig? Charles Townshend. Which American organization formed in 1917 sent donut girls to serve pastries to soldiers near the front lines? The Salvation Army, Baker Troops, or the Snack Squad? The Salvation Army. Which German general kept a pet tortoise named Moritz at his headquarters on the Eastern Front? Erich Ludendorff, Paul von Hindenburg, or August von Mackensen? August von Mackensen. Which Russian general's beard was so famous that German propaganda claimed it was a military asset in 1914? Mikhail Alexeyev, Alexei Borisov, or Nikolai Yudenich? Alexei Borisov. What American wartime invention, a portable X-ray machine, was nicknamed Little Curie after its French inspiration? The radium scanner, the Edison scope, or the Coolidge tube? The Coolidge tube. What French rifle grenade allowed soldiers to fire explosives from standard rifles, but was notoriously unreliable? Hotchkiss number 3, the Vivian Bessieres grenade, or the Saint Etienne grenade? The Vivian Bessieres grenade. What Austro-Hungarian general lost the fortress of Przemysl to Russia after a 133-day siege, one of the longest of the war? Herman Kuzmanek. What Italian town saw fierce fighting in 1917 when Austro-German forces broke through the Italian lines during the Battle of Caporetto? Cividale del Friuli, Verona, or Trieste? Cividale del Friuli. What German general, often overlooked, commanded the 8th Army to a surprising victory at Tannenberg in 1914 alongside Hindenburg? Max Hoffmann, Karl von Bülow, or Erich Ludendorff? Erich Ludendorff. What Canadian city saw violent riots in 1917 over conscription, reflecting French-English tensions? Vancouver, Montreal, or Quebec? Quebec. What law passed in 1917 banned German language instruction in many U.S. schools due to anti-German sentiment? The Patriot Education Act, the Babel Proclamation, or the Wilson Proclamation? The Babel Proclamation. What German synthetic product made from coal tar replaced scarce natural dyes for uniforms after 1915? Aniline dye, Prussian blue ink, or iron oxide pigment? Aniline dye. Which British trench tool, a folding shovel, was issued to soldiers but often broke under heavy clay soil? The entrenching tool, the Mark I digger, or the clay spade? The entrenching tool. What experimental British device fired drums of gas or oil into German lines starting in 1916? The Vickers flamer, the Churchill sprayer, or the Livens projector? The Livens projector. Which Canadian province banned alcohol sales in 1916 to boost war productivity, leading to a thriving black market? Nova Scotia, Manitoba, or British Columbia? Nova Scotia. Which French bomb dropped from observation balloons was nicknamed the Silent Killer due to its lack of whistle? The Michelin bomb, the Renault Blast bomb, or the Chausson Aero bomb? The Michelin bomb. What odd American wartime campaign encouraged children to collect peach pits for gas mask filters in 1918? Pit patrol, seed seeking, or pit hunt? Pit patrol. What American farm product saw a massive production increase in 1917 to feed Allied troops, leading to a mid-weekly campaign? Wheat, corn, or potatoes? Wheat. What British wartime soap substitute made from clay and sand was used when fats became scarce in 1917? Fueller's Earth Soap, Lime Wash Soap, or Clay Scrub? Fueller's Earth Soap. The Defense of the Realm Act was a British wartime regulation that banned what act? Carrying matches near munitions factories, singing in public after dark, or ringing of church bells? Ringing of church bells. What British toffee apple bomb was fired from mortars to destroy German dugouts in 1916? Medium trench mortar bomb, the sugar plum shell, or the sticky bomb? Medium trench mortar bomb. Which UK town produced over 50 million sandbags by 1918, earning it the nickname Sack City? Sheffield, Liverpool, or Dundee? Dundee. What British naval weapon, a towed explosive paravane, was used to cut mine cables but rarely worked in rough seas? The otter, the swordfish, or the sea skiv? The otter. Which Canadian general commanding the Canadian Corps used innovative artillery tactics to capture Vimy Ridge in 1970? Julian Byng, Frederick Loomis, or Samuel Steele? Julian Byng. What obscure Serbian village was the site of a brutal 1915 battle when Bulgarian forces crushed Serbian resistance? Unice, Perot, or Vranje? Perot. Which Canadian general refused to wear a helmet at Vimy Ridge in 1917, claiming it ruined his hat collection? Henry Burstall, Arthur Currie, or Richard Turner? Arthur Currie. Which American company produced millions of Victory Garden seed packets in 1917 to encourage home food production? Burpee Seeds, Monsanto, or Kellogg Seeds? Burpee Seeds. What British food item was replaced with war bread made from potato flour and sawdust-like additives in 1917. White bread, rye bread, or butter biscuits. White bread. Which Belgian coastal town was shelled by German warships in 1914, marking an early naval bombardment of the war? Blankenberge, Zeebrugge, or Ostend? Ostend. What obscure Italian weapon, a flamethrower, was tested in 1915 but rarely used due to its weight? Modello Fiamma 22, Il Fuoco Veloce, or Lancia Fiamme Modello? Lancia Fiamme Modello 35. Which British women's group formed in 1915 grew vegetables in public parks to combat food shortages? The Victory Growers, the Women's Land Army, or the Green Brigade? The Women's Land Army. What obscure Canadian nickname was given to soldiers' wives who received separation allowances starting in 1914? Silver Bullet Brides, Wage Warrior Widows, or Golden Angel Wives? Silver Bullet Brides. In 1917, there was a British law that fined people for feeding which animals? Horses, cats, or pigeons? Pigeons. Which small Balkan nation joined the Central Powers in 1915 and played a key role in crushing Serbia? Albania, Montenegro, or Bulgaria? Bulgaria. What pear-shaped French grenade was thrown by Poilus to clear trenches in 1915? F1 grenade, Model 1913 Thunderer, or the Ordnance B-12? The F1 grenade. Camouflage nets were knitted by French women in 1916. What was the purpose of these nets? They hid guns from aerial detection, they hid soldiers from cold winds and trenches, or they hid food storage areas from enemy view. They hid guns from aerial detection. What quick homes did the UK build for munitions workers? Factory lodges, barracks, or prefabs? Prefabs. What affordable timekeeping item did British firms mass produce for soldiers? Wristwatches, pocket watches, or chain clocks? Wristwatches. Which African port captured by British forces from Germany in 1916 was the key supply point in the East Africa campaign? Tanga, Lamu, or Beira? Tanga. What British explosive made from cotton waste and nitric acid was used in artillery shells starting in 1915? Coronium, cordite, or blastite? Cordite. Which Canadian factory product, a lightweight steel helmet, replaced earlier cloth caps for soldiers in 1916? The Brodie helmet, the Dominion Guard, or the Maple Shield? The Brodie helmet. Which British seaside town saw its fishing industry collapse in 1914 due to German naval threats, forcing locals into war work? Hastings, Blackpool, or Whitby? Whitby. What German anti-tank rifle was wielded by stormtroopers against British tanks in 1918? The Mauser T. Gewehr. Which Australian women's group stitched hospital linens in 1915 for wounded soldiers overseas? The Southern Cross Nurses, the Australian Red Cross, or Women's Patriotic Sewing Guild? The Australian Red Cross. Which Canadian wartime job saw women inspecting artillery shells in factories, often under hazardous conditions? Shipyard riveting, munitions work, or tank assembly work? Munitions work. Which Russian machine gun on a sled was used by Siberian regiments against Germans in 1916? The Maxim M1910. What African colony under Portuguese control saw fighting in 1917 when German forces invaded from East Africa? Madagascar, Angola, or Mozambique? Mozambique. What did French troops make candles from to light their dugouts? Beef tallow, beeswax, or paraffin-soaked newspaper? Beef tallow. What remote Russian town on the Kola Peninsula became a vital Allied supply port despite its harsh Arctic conditions? Murmansk. What Canadian product used for soldiers' uniforms saw production triple in 1916 due to wartime demand? Wool, leather, or flannel? Wool. What canned stew, did British soldiers eat in the trenches? Trench rations mix, Lancashire hot pot, or maconochie? Maconochie. What handheld German flamethrower was tested in 1917 for close combat? The Flammenwerfer pistol. German forces strapped cameras to flying animals for reconnaissance. What animal was it? Pigeon, seagulls, or eagles? Pigeon. Which Australian general pioneered combined arms at Hamel in 1918? Charles Rosenthal, Thomas Blamey, or John Monash? John Monash, or Monash. What did Canadian French speakers do in 1917 to protest conscription? Burn draft offices, refused to pay war taxes, or blockaded railway stations? Burn draft offices. What did American suburbs turn lawns into in 1917? Soldiers' rest parks, victory gardens, or community greenhouses? Victory Gardens. What did Russian peasants hoard in 1916, worsening urban famine? Potatoes, grain, or pumpkins? Grain. Where did French villages send war orphans for care? Rural families, monasteries, or Red Cross camps? Rural families. What did Irish rebels seize in Dublin during the 1916 Easter Rising? The National Bank, the Dublin Castle, or the Post Office? The Post Office. We are at question 60. Why did German schools close in 1916? Lack of education funding, teachers were drafted, or food shortages forced children to work? Teachers were drafted. Where did French villagers house troops during the war? Church basements, wine cellars, or barns and attics? Barns and attics. What spiked weapon did Canadian soldiers craft for trench raids? Trench club, bayonet mace, or knuckle baton? Trench club. Where did Russian sailors rebel in 1917, killing their officers? Kronstadt, Sevastopol, or Odessa? Kronstadt. What did German troops call their sawdust and potato bread in 1917? Erschatzkrust, black bread, or trench loaf? Black bread. What did Germany make from coal tar to replace rubber for tires? Ersatz rubber, Petroflex, or hard resin rubber? Ersatz rubber. What did Canadian churches hold nightly for soldiers' safety? Fasting circles, candlelight marches, or prayer vigils? Prayer vigils. Which Indian group plotted against British rule in Punjab in 1915? The Bengal Brotherhood, Ghadar Rebels, or Singh Rebellion League? Ghadar Rebels. What did British children memorize to glorify the empire? Patriotic poems, war hymns, or nationalistic nursery rhymes? Patriotic poems. Which French general smoked cigars obsessively during strategy talks? Ferdinand Foch, Philippe Pétain, or Joseph Joffre? Ferdinand Foch. What hard biscuits did Australian families send to soldiers? Digger rations, Outback crackers, or Anzac biscuits? Anzac biscuits. Where did Belgian civilians flee en masse? Overwhelming border towns. Luxembourg, France, or Holland? Holland. What did UK women meet weekly to make for trench troops? Socks, bandages, or wool gloves? Socks. What did French pupils play during recess to mimic the war? Bayonet charge, trench warfare, or airplane bombers? Trench warfare. What did British women use as lipstick in 1917 shortages? Beet juice, raspberries, or flower petals? Beet juice. What did French troops refuse after Nivelle's failed 1917 offensive? Training drills, trench repairs, or orders? Orders. Which British general entered Jerusalem on foot to avoid imperial heirs? Edmund Allenby, Douglas Haig, or Herbert Plumer? Edmund Allenby. Which 1916 British film showed real trench footage? Over the Top, The Frontline Chronicle, or The Battle of the Somme? The Battle of the Somme. Where did Canadian recruits live before deployment? Farmhouses, tent cities, or barracks huts? Tent cities. What material did British civilians use for shoes when leather ran short? Paper, wool felt, or cork? Paper. Why did British munitions workers strike in 1917? For better wages, poor safety regulations, or shorter work hours? For better wages. What did American children sell door to door to fund the war? War bond stamps, Liberty cards, or soldier tokens? War bond stamps. Which German planner ate only rye bread on the Eastern Front? Earl de Luxembourg, Paul von Hindenburg, or Max Hoffmann? Max Hoffmann. What did German cities expand for factory workers? Underground shelters, barracks, or soup kitchens? Barracks. What tube bomb did British engineers use to clear barbed wire silently? Bangalore torpedo, Bangalore bazooka, or the Bangalore hush? Bangalore torpedo. What did British towns limit to keep workers sober for factories? Gambling hours, beer strength, or pub hours? Pub hours. Who aided Libyan Senussi tribes in their 1915 revolt against Italy? The French Foreign Legion, Ottomans, or German advisors? The Ottomans. What cheap wine did French poilus get daily to boost morale? Pinard, Vin Rouge, or Sangria? Pinard. What did American textbooks call Germans to rally young minds? Iron fangs, germs, or Huns? Huns. What was the purpose of the French using sound-ringing gear that uses microphones? To locate enemy guns, to track aircraft movements, or to eavesdrop on enemy conversations? To locate enemy guns. Which Italian general's ban on leave sparked mutinies in 1917? Pietro Badoglio, Luigi Cadorna, or Armando Diaz? Luigi Cadorna. What did UK Boy Scouts guard against German spies? Dockyards, telegraph stations, or railways? Railways. What did French kids play with depicting poilus in trenches? Card games, battlefield dice, or toy soldiers? Toy soldiers. Whose 1918 film Shoulder Arms mocked trench life? Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, or Harold Lloyd? Charlie Chaplin. What did American civilians eat to save wheat for the front? Barley porridge, cornmeal mush, or oatcakes? Cornmeal mush. Which British poet shaped a grim wartime literary style? Rupert Brooke, Siegfried Sassoon, or Wilfred Owen? Wilfred Owen. Where did Belgian orphans work to replace lost men? Shipyards, farms, or mines? Farms. What fabric vanished from American dresses for parachutes? Silk, cotton, or rayon? Silk. What did French villages build for the fallen? Makeshift tombs, stone obelisks, or roadside crosses? Roadside crosses. Where did Belgian families squat after the bombings? Ruined cellars, church basements, or barns? Ruined cellars. Question 100. Whose music did American towns ban due to anti-German hysteria? Mozart, Beethoven, or Vivaldi? Beethoven. And our bonus question. The treaty that officially ended World War I was the Treaty of what? Let us know the answer in the comments. And of course, how well you did with our quiz class, Einstein Rewards. We'd love to hear it. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.